Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the stories behind the headlines, the trends, and the products shaping our world. Have you ever wondered what goes into a truly successful rebrand? Especially in an industry that's not just competitive, but, constantly evolving and often facing these unique regulatory hurdles. It's pretty incredible how a seemingly subtle tweak, maybe a clever strategic pivot, can just transform a product, redefine a market, and, well, send ripples across an entire industry. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive into what many are calling the greatest rebrand in cannabis history. We're going to chart the compelling journey from a strain named Runtz, a true superstar in its own right, to its incredible evolution into the phenomenon we now know as Lemon Cherry Gelato.
Exactly. And this isn't just about, tracing the genetic line of some popular plant. We're going to pull back the curtain on the really astute strategic moves, the subtle but crucial genetic nuances, and the significant cultural shifts that allowed one particular expression of cannabis to not just survive, but to, well, utterly dominate its field. Our insights today are drawn directly from this fascinating analysis on cannabis rebranding, detailing this exact journey.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because what we're about to explore isn't just a story about cannabis. It's really a masterclass in adaptation, in understanding your market's pulse, and frankly, in brilliant, often kind of counterintuitive business strategy. It's a compelling narrative about branding, innovation, and truly anticipating or maybe even creating market trends. So let's go back in time. Where does this story really kick off? 2017, right? With a sudden, explosive breakout of Runtz. What was it about Runtz that made it such an instant, undeniable hit?
Well, what's truly fascinating here is just the sheer speed. Runtz exploded onto the scene almost like a flashbulb moment in cannabis culture. Its origin is almost legendary. The rumor is it emerged from a seemingly humble Gelato 33 bag seed. For those maybe not familiar, a bag seed is literally just a seed found by chance in a batch of flour, often unexpected, right? But this one carried the prestigious DNA of Gelato 33, which is itself a foundational, highly acclaimed strain. So that serendipitous origin only added to its mystique, really, and it contributed to its explosive debut when it was showcased by these Bay Area legends like Ray Bama, Young LB, and the original grower, Nick, at the 2017 Emerald Cup. This wasn't just another strain hitting the market, it was like an event. The impact was immediate, profound.
Yeah.
It quite literally sparked what we now recognize as the modern candy era in cannabis.
The modern candy era. Okay, that sounds like a pretty big shift in what people wanted. What did that actually mean for the market? What were consumers looking for before Runtz kind of blew up?
Oh, it was a huge shift, absolutely. Before Runtz, the market often celebrated what we call gas and earth terpene profiles. Think pungent, fuel-like aromas, sometimes deep, rich, earthy note strains like OG Kush or, diesel variants.
Yeah.
Those were the benchmarks. They were the standard for quality and potency for a long time. But Runtz, with its unbelievably sweet, fruity, almost tropical candy-like aroma and flavor, it was just a revelation. It offered a completely different, highly appealing sensory experience. It wasn't just good cannabis, it was delicious. It redefined what premium meant, signaling that connoisseurship was evolving beyond just sheer potency. It was moving into this sophisticated appreciation for complex, enjoyable aroma and flavor profiles. It basically told cultivators, give us dessert.
It clearly worked. It dominated, right? It seemed like it was everywhere. Loved that distinct profile, the flavor, the cultural cachet. But then here's where it gets really interesting, as you mentioned earlier. Just a year or two after this meteoric rise, Runtz hits this hurdle, intellectual property. That must have been a massive game changer for the industry.
It really was, truly. By 2018, 2019, Runtz wasn't just a popular strain anymore. It had become a registered trademark. And this development created a critical moment, a real fork in the road, not just for the original creators, but for cultivators all over who had eagerly adopted and grown the strain. They now faced a pretty stark choice. Either pay for the legal use of the Runtz name, through licensing deals, or undertake a rebrand of their own product, even if it was genetically identical to what everyone knew as Runtz. This whole incident really highlighted a significant maturation of the market. It started mirroring traditional consumer goods. It showed that the name itself, the brand identity, had become just as valuable, maybe even more valuable, than the genetic cut of the plant. It wasn't solely about the plant's quality anymore. It was about the legal and marketing power tied up in its identity.
Wow. That is a huge pivot. Moving beyond just the plant's genetics to the brand equity and the legal protections around it, this shift in value from the plant to the name must have created a real headache for cultivators. How do you adapt when your biggest asset suddenly becomes a potential legal issue? And this is precisely the challenge that led to the rise of a key player we need to discuss, Cannatique Farms, Oakland-based cultivator. They really seem to understand how to navigate this changing landscape. Tell us about Cannatique's Runtz era and how they approach this whole situation.
Right, so Cannatique Farms, founded way back in 2011 by Rebecca Kirk and her father, they already had a solid reputation, quality-driven operation. They weren't exactly newcomers when Runtz hit. So in that 2019-2020 period, they made a very calculated move. They secured a verified, authentic Runtz clone. This wasn't just any Runtz, it was the real deal, the verified cut. And that allowed them to quickly earn a reputation for cultivating some of the absolute best Runtz in California. This really established their credibility in a big way. Then what they did next was really strategic. They released Runtz 2.0, but under a direct licensing deal with the original Runtz brand. Now, this one's 2.0, while described as a slightly different expression from the original, maybe subtle variations in the terpene profile or density, how it grew, it still very much dominated what was becoming known as the candy terp lane. It kept that sweet, fruity profile consumers were loving. They basically successfully played within the new rules of the game that the trademark had created.
Okay, so they had this successful licensed version, Runtz 2.0, doing really well. Smart move. But what happens when that licensing deal ends? Because those things usually do have an end date. How do you keep your market share and innovate when you no longer have the rights to the original brand name that, well, kind of made you famous in that space? That sounds like a real tightrope walk.
It is, absolutely. And this is precisely where their impressive strategic thinking really came to the forefront. After their Runtz license concluded, Cannatique made a crucial pivot, one that would really redefine their future. They took their celebrated Runtz cut, the genetics they had perfected, and they crossed it with a mystery strain. This cross created a new phenotype, essentially a genetically distinct version of the plant, unique in its specific traits, even while sharing that Runtz lineage. This wasn't just throwing things at the wall, it was an intentional act of innovation, building on what they had. And then soon after, they forged this pivotal partnership with Casada, the visionary founder of official Backpack Boyz. Casada apparently brought the vision to rebrand this new expression, this refined Runtz 2.0 crossed with the mystery strain as Lemon Cherry Gelato. It was a brilliant combination, really. Cultivation mastery meeting marketing genius.
A mystery strain, huh? That definitely adds a layer of intrigue. Was there much speculation back then about what that secret ingredient might have been? Or did they keep it tightly under wraps? And what kind of impact did this mystery cross actually have, even if we don't know exactly what it was?
Yeah, the identity of that mystery strain, still a closely guarded secret, which honestly is pretty clever from a branding perspective, adds to the whole mystique of Lemon Cherry Gelato. But its impact was undeniable. While we don't know the exact genetic components, that added influence from the cross likely refined and enhanced the existing Runtz profile. Maybe it boosted certain cherry or lemon notes, or added a creamy undertone that wasn't quite as prominent before. It allowed Cannatique to create something that felt both familiar, it still had that Runtz candy vibe, but also refreshingly new. It offered a unique twist. It differentiated it from the original Runtz and even from their Runtz 2.0. It really highlights how even a small, targeted genetic tweak can lead to a profoundly different product in the market.
Lemon Cherry Gelato. I mean, it just rolls off the tongue, and it sounds so evocative. Delicious, really. But you're saying it was more than just a catchy name. It was a carefully chosen identity, right? A strategic alignment designed to hit the mark. How did that specific naming play into its massive success?
Oh, the name Lemon Cherry Gelato was, well, it was genius, pure and simple. It was incredibly effective because it precisely nailed the sweet, creamy profile of the strain. Just think about it. Lemon for that bright, zesty tang, cherry for rich, fruity sweetness, and gelato for that smooth, creamy, almost dessert-like finish. It just evokes exactly the kind of desirable, complex, dessert-like terpenes that consumers in this candy era were increasingly looking for. And maybe even more importantly, it crucially signaled its gelato heritage. This was exceptionally smart. Gelato was already this highly respected, sought-after lineage in the cannabis world, known for premium quality, potent effects. So by connecting LCG to that strong genetic family, it immediately built trust, desire, a sense of, luxury. It didn't take long before Lemon Cherry Gelato became a new standard for candy terps, basically setting the bar even higher than Runtz had.
Okay, so we have this incredible new name, this profile that everyone wants. But genetically speaking, what exactly is Lemon Cherry Gelato? Is it a totally new strain born from that mystery cross, or is it more like a dressed-up classic with a new name? Because there's often a lot of confusion, even debate in the market about these definitions.
It's an excellent question, and it really gets to the heart of how we define things in cannabis genetics, which can be murky. Lemon Cherry Gelato is still Runtz-based. Undeniably. It carries that core genetic signature. But it has that added influence from the mystery cross. So while it's not entirely distinct, you can probably still taste and feel the Runtz essence in there. It's also not just a simple relabeling of the original Runtz. It's more than that. This dual heritage means that, yeah, some insiders see it as a new strain. They recognize the significant impact of that mystery cross in changing its characteristics, maybe its growth structure, cannabinoid profile, or just a crucial nuance in its terpene expression that makes it feel different. Whereas others consider it a refined Runtz expression, acknowledging its deep roots, its primary genetic influence still coming from that original Runtz line. It really raises a fascinating question, doesn't it? Where do we draw the line? What makes something new genetically in this rapidly evolving plant world? Is it a significant tweak, or does it have to be a complete departure? LCG kind of sits elegantly right in that interesting middle ground.
Fascinating distinction. But regardless of how you classify it genetically, the market definitely spoke. And it screamed lemon cherry gelato. It didn't just take off. It absolutely exploded. Became a cultural touchstone, it seems. Describe that market takeover for us. What did it actually look like on the ground, in dispensaries?
The market uptake was incredibly fast and incredibly widespread. Almost unprecedented, really. By the early 2020s, so just a couple of years ago, lemon cherry gelato had absolutely taken over shelves in dispensaries across California, and then it quickly spread nationally. You basically couldn't walk into a decent dispensary without seeing it prominently displayed. Often as a top-shelf item, its influence became pervasive. It was the new benchmark for quality and desirability in that whole candy terp space. In fact, the analysis notes that many new candy hype genetics trace back to Runtz or LCG directly, meaning breeders were actively trying to mimic it or cross with LCG to capture that same profile and market success. This really signifies that major market shift we talked about, where dessert terps officially replaced gas and earth as the premium benchmark. Consumers weren't just asking for strong weed anymore, they were asking for specific, desirable flavor profiles. LCG exemplified this new standard. It showed a sophisticated palate emerging, a demand for a more refined experience. It was a clear signal that the industry's focus had truly shifted towards the art and the science of flavor.
And it wasn't just the licensed, regulated market that went crazy for it, right? You mentioned its reach went beyond that. This rebrand found incredible traction everywhere, including in, let's say, less formal channels. It became part of the street lexicon.
Oh, absolutely. Its reach extended far beyond the official dispensaries. The street game impact of Lemon Cherry Gelato was equally significant, maybe even more so in terms of just pure cultural penetration. In the traditional unregulated market and among independent street brands, LCG quickly became one of the most re-rocked and renamed strains in cannabis during this whole candy era. And for anyone unfamiliar, re-rocked basically means that sometimes, unfortunately, lesser quality flower was passed off or rebranded as LCG by less scrupulous sellers just to capitalize on its massive demand and cachet. Its popularity was just undeniable. People sought it out by name. Demand was high everywhere, but the source note specifically, on the East Coast especially, demand for candy terps keeps LCG in constant rotation. It really solidified its status as this consistently sought-after strain no matter the market segment. It became a byword for that specific desirable flavor profile everybody wanted.
Okay, so this is clearly a super compelling story of innovation and market savvy within the cannabis world specifically. But stepping back, what does this all mean for us, the listeners? As we think about branding, innovation, maybe the products we consume daily across any industry, what's the big takeaway, the overarching lesson from this Runtz to Lemon Cherry Gelato journey?
Well, if we connect it to that broader picture, the core message from the source material is really about the profound power of adaptability and having a clear strategic vision. The Runtz to LCG pivot, it proves how small, targeted genetic tweaks and brilliant strategic rebranding can turn a potential legal liability, like, losing the rights to your key brand name, into one of cannabis's most bankable and enduring names. It's really a testament to exceptional market intelligence, to understanding deeply what consumers actually want, not just what they say they want. And crucially, it highlights the importance of fostering smart, collaborative partnerships, like Cannatique linking up with Casada, bringing together that cultivation expertise with marketing vision. What's truly fascinating here is how they didn't just react to a challenge, this potential roadblock, they actively transformed it into a launchpad for even greater success. It demonstrates that innovation isn't always about inventing something completely new from scratch, right? Often it's about refining, repositioning, thoughtfully evolving what you already have, turning a limitation into a strategic advantage. It's really about knowing when to hold on, and maybe more importantly, when to pivot.
What an incredible, really intricate journey for what began as essentially a single plant. evolving through these savvy business decisions from an Emerald Cup debut to this powerful rebrand that didn't just sustain its market presence, but actually redefined an entire segment of the industry. It's a real testament to foresight and creative problem solving.
You know, this whole story of Runtz becoming Lemon Cherry Gelato, it really makes me wonder how many iconic products or brands are out there all around you in any industry that owe their longevity and their success not just to their initial, maybe brilliant innovation, but to a critical rebrand or a subtle but really significant refinement. Or just a clever, well-executed pivot when they were faced with some kind of challenge. It kind of makes you look at every new and improved label or redesigned logo a little differently, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, yeah. Next time you encounter a new product or maybe an old favorite that suddenly has a fresh new look, you might just be witnessing a lemon cherry gelato moment unfolding right there in real time. Definitely pay attention to those shifts. They often tell a much deeper story than you might think. Thanks everyone for joining us for this deep dive.